Welcome to an episode of Founder in the Chair. Today I have a lady with me who is a whole body therapist. Now you may wonder, what is that? She is a somatic therapist and a clinical pharmacist of 16 years. She helps people find connection of their body in order to switch out of survival mode to prevent burnout, chronic pain, chronic illness, anxiety and depression. After many years as a pharmacist working with medicines which mask the body, she realised the missing key to truly helping people is the connection to the body and the nervous system. As an international aid worker, moving from disaster zone to disaster zone, she has worked with many suffering from PTSD and trauma around the world, understanding the toll it has taken on the body and mind. So today I'm super excited to welcome Jaspreet Randhawa. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, so you're an aid worker as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey just to start with.
Yeah. Okay.
How did you get into all of this?
Okay, so I trained as a pharmacist and I went down a very traditional route of finishing university, going into pharmacy, and then I decided I wanted to do an additional training as a prescribing pharmacist. So I can write prescriptions and diagnose patients as well.
Right.
And for so many years, I thought I was really helping people. And then as time went on, I saw after, I'd say about a decade,
Right.
I was like, okay, well, the same people keep coming into me every month, which means that they always need medication, which means that the problem isn't solved, right? Once they stop the medication, the symptoms of their body, symptoms of whatever the ailment is, it comes back. And so I started to work a lot with supplementation. I did a lot of research and tried to go down holistic routes with the medication because it's not for me to take away their conventional healthcare.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that there's a place for conventional healthcare, particularly in emergencies.
Yes.
So I started supplementing and I got some results and it went well, but still they were coming back to me every single month. Mm-hmm. So it was still this feeling of masking. And I went through my own journey of... I went through some difficulties, particularly in COVID. I was absolutely burnt out because the healthcare workers were burning out.
Yeah.
I went through a few personal issues. I had some health problems. I also had a car accident and then I had a death in the family. And all of those three within a 6-month period, it just changed something for me. Like the glimmers of joy really reduced.
Right.
But it didn't happen instantly. I was really tired and I was really struggling to be happy. But from the outside, like I have everything, you know? What more could I possibly ask for? Why am I not happy? You know, particularly when you're an aid worker and you go to these countries and you see people really struggling with life, you know, and they don't have the basics of shelter or security. And I have that. So there was a part of me that was like, well, there's something wrong and I've lost my vitality. So I found my therapist and it's somebody that I knew and trusted for many years. Right. And I didn't ask what kind of therapy she did. I just knew I trusted her. And that's really important in therapy. Yeah. Whatever type of therapy people go through, the relationship and connection you have with your therapist is the first and foremost of being of greater importance. Yes. Because if your therapist cannot hold you and you don't trust them, you can't open up to them. There's no level of safety. I went to her and a year later I felt brilliant, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what she had done and what these small practices that she had given me, why that helped me so much. Luckily, she opened a school to try and teach people her way of doing therapy. I very selfishly joined because I wanted to learn for myself. I had no intention of becoming a therapist. Okay. So I joined the school and I trained to become a somatic therapist, learning that it was somatic therapy. Mm-hmm. And I used to run clinics within a central London pharmacy, prescribing clinics. And I started to incorporate some of the somatic therapy techniques with my patients. Okay. And I just saw unbelievably huge results. You know, like it really changed. Wow. I realized that for all these years, I've been working with masking the symptoms and the signals of the body. And with somatic therapy, I'm working with the signals of the body. I need to listen to them. I need to find out what's really being communicated. Because if we have digestive problems and we're feeling really stressed, there's this kind of automatic method that we use of taking a pill or ignoring it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then we get stressed more and then the digestive issues increase. And I use this as an example because it's so common.
Yeah.
Right. And, IBD and diarrhea, constipation, bloating, just that churning. Right.
It's like when I get nervous, it's like diarrhea.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Diarrhea somatically is thought of just needing to let it go, not being able to hold it because it feels too much. If that's a go-to, if that's what happens when you get nervous, when you get chronically nervous, chronically stressed, then often the stomach will keep giving you symptoms. We keep suppressing it. And then it's like, okay, well, here you are. Here's something really big, and people will come to me with irritable bowel disease, Crohn's, colitis, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And that's something that's very, very difficult to treat within conventional healthcare. And I have several clients who come to me for that. Okay. And all we're doing is working with the body. I am clinical in my nature. I have a clinical background and I blend it with holistic health. I'm not saying to anyone that you shouldn't be taking medication. What I'm saying is let's work with the body. What is it trying to tell you? And I will continue to work with you in a way that is safe. A lot of holistic practitioners are very against medication. I'm not like that. I understand it has its place in mental health care as well. Yeah. Somatic therapy works with your physical, emotional, and your mental well-being. Often people have this great stigma about taking antidepressants, antipsychotics. Yeah. And I don't want someone to be on it forever. However, I do think that sometimes we need this base layer to help us survive, to come forward for more help, to get us out of bed in the morning. And then I can work with you. And if there's something which doesn't feel safe, I have a lot of people come to me and say, I want to stop my medication, Jas. I don't want to take it anymore. It's like, okay, not right now. Right? Let's first work together as you are. Yeah. As you feel better, it will naturally fall away. And for some people, the symptoms are too severe and it won't fall away. But I often can help them just feel better, right? Because there's something going on.
So when someone first comes to you, firstly, how do you take on a client? So if someone said, right, Jas, I want to start working with you.
Yeah. So
how does it start? What's the process?
All of my work is via Zoom. There's two reasons for that. My therapists work with me via Zoom. So I deeply believe that the connection can be maintained. Energetically, it can be felt, whether you're sat with me face to face or whether we're sat on a Zoom call. We start with Zoom, we'll have initial consultation, and I'll spend 30 minutes or so speaking with you. And the purpose of this is for me to get to know you, for you to have an opportunity to share, really to speak what is true for you in a non-judgmental space. That's really important. Because if you offer yourself and what's happening for you to somebody and they judge you, there's this automatic recoil. So a non-judgmental space of you opening up and letting me know what feels safe for you to offer. There's no digging, or I'm not trying to get things from you. And also that space, that 30-minute consultation is all about you feeling whether you're connected with me and me feeling whether I'm connected with you. If I don't feel connected with you and I don't feel like I can help and be of service, it's unfair to continue. After that call, we'll make a decision and see whether we want to work one-to-one, whether you want to join a retreat, or whether you want to join a membership, because I have a membership as well that people can join in with. And I offer 3 different services because one size does not fit all.
When you say a retreat, what does that mean? What happens?
Okay. There's millions of retreats out there now, right? There's the yoga retreats, there's the silent ones. There's just so many going out, and all of them have their place. And I am a huge fan of retreats. I do 3 or 4 a year because it's a moment of refuge. Yes. Right? Most of us are inundated with stimulus, right? With our phones, with digital devices, with our families. Right, with their needs and wants. Then there's our work. And then there's the mental turmoil of what we expect from ourselves. The reason why I offer retreats is because I've gone to so many and I go for refuge. I go to reconnect with myself, and I go to have guidance specifically with the practices that I need to support myself in everyday life. So in our one-to-ones, let's say if I was taking care of you, we would have our one-to-ones and I would tell you some practices. We would have a level of talking, And then along the way, I'm going to try and figure out which somatic practices would probably suit you. I would offer you these practices and you go away and do them. What tends to happen is life is still busy, right? It still gets in the way. There's going to be some relief, but life is still busy. Now, when you go into retreat and you come away with me for 5 days, you don't have the outer distraction. Right. For some, that's really uncomfortable. People often like to be really distracted because it stops them from going inwards. But we take you into retreat with no electricity in your cabin. Yeah, wow. Yeah. I know, that's the one, right? Okay. No electricity in your cabin. There's lighting and the bedding is comfortable, but there's no electricity so that you can't charge your devices. And I offer to people, you can give me your device and I will take care of it. And if there's an emergency, you can tell your family or friends to contact me. And I will definitely pass the message on, right? I'm not cruel. But you don't, the whole point of the retreat is to not allow for the distractions, because normally these distractions are to take us away from ourselves. And in retreat, you're nourished with really beautiful food. We do daily somatic practices. And actually you get to rest. That's really key. Slowing down and resting and not feeling guilty about it.
And where are these retreats normally?
I've based them in Carmarthen in Wales. Okay. I've done that deliberately because there's a lot of retreats that go abroad and it's beautiful and it's lovely, but it's not always accessible for everyone. Right. So I'm trying to make it so that it's accessible for the people and the communities that I serve firsthand here. It means that we can have one base, and I did want to keep one base in order to continue to create a community there every time we meet. I think retreats pivot. They just, even if it's by 1 degree, they just pivot what's happening in your life, and they allow you to see a lot of that which you've not seen before. They allow you to connect with yourself. So that's the purpose of the retreats. And a lot of clients that I've been working with for several months, or longer, will come to a retreat, and it means that everything that they've learned is compounded in this kind of space. With like-minded women. We hold the space for one another, but it's guided with me. I'm the one that's going to be sat with you and showing you how we're going to breathe and how we're going to move. It's really important. Most people go on holiday, right? Yeah. So it's basically your holiday, but without the annoying people that are following you around on the holiday. Right?
Yeah.
But
even a holiday is like a stimulus, right?
Yeah.
You're either planning things, sightseeing. Yeah. Definitely have your phone with you.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're trying to fit everything in that somebody told you to do when you visit that place.
Yeah. It's more stimulating. And a lot of people come back from holiday and say, I need a holiday from my holiday.
I'm always that person. I need a holiday from a holiday.
We're seeking refuge, right? That's why people need to go on holidays. Not even, it used to be a really privileged thing. Like I remember in my younger days, like my parents didn't go on holiday for 10 years, and when they did, they went to India. Right? It wasn't a holiday, it was to see family. And now for ourselves, we're really privileged, we're really lucky. We can go away on holiday, but we go there, we tend to eat badly, we don't nourish ourselves, right? We get more tired. We're trying to fit everything in. There's a lot of doing, and that really leads me on to our nervous system. A lot of doing means that the nervous system is constantly active. So a lot of the work that I do is nervous system regulation, and all of us have a nervous system. And often you will hear people say, we talk about our nerves frequently. So-and-so is getting on my nerves. I feel nervous. I've got nerves of steel. And even though it's in our daily language, not many of us know how to work with our nervous system. And our nervous system is integral in shifting us from like a rested, chilled state, like Zen mode, to survival. And then also from survival to shutdown. So if I explain the 3 states, because all of us would have felt them at some stage. In a regulated nervous system, one where our body and our nervous system automatically shifts to the different states according to whatever the threat is or whatever's happening in our environment. If I am faced with a bear and it's in this room now, I'm going to go from chilling with you to survival. I'm going to go to fight or flight. And when I go to fight or flight, it's tension. I'm going to be poised to either run or to fight. and I'll feel tension in all of my body,
Mm-hmm.
all of my energy will be redirected for that action, which means that I won't be able to digest. You know, I'm not going to be thinking about stretching or taking my timing, being slow. I'm going to be activated and go, go, go.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to have tunnel vision. All I'm going to see is, how do I get out? How do I fight this? How do I survive?
Yeah.
Right? When the nervous system switches into survival, the blood pressure will increase, heart rate increases. There'll be anxiety in the body.
Yeah.
We need it, right? We need it to tell us something's wrong.
Yeah.
And then we'll act accordingly. Fast movements. When we go from the bear is in the room, we shift from a chilled stage to survival, to fight or flight. Once the bear is gone, or I've escaped it, or I fought it, whatever has happened, my nervous system should shift back to a rested state.
Yeah.
Right? The threat has now gone.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen for many people.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who stay in survival for a prolonged period of times and they don't even realize it. But if we just go through the symptoms that I spoke of, what happens to the body? Tension. That's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. When your shoulders are up here, right? When you can't stretch, you don't have mobility. You know, it's like your body's seized, poised and ready. The mind is super active and it's looking for somewhere to go. There's this hypervigilance. So, for example, when somebody walks in the room, you jump and you're startled, right? You're startled really easily.
Yeah.
That's like always poised for threat. How many of us know somebody with high blood pressure with no answer as to why, right? When someone gets diagnosed with it, it's not, oh, why is your blood pressure high? Oh, has somebody in the family got high blood pressure? Well, you know, yeah, of course they do, because they're probably in survival too. High heart rate. Another sign. This hypervigilance that we have, always looking for threat and having constant anxiety. How many people do you know who have anxiety, who suffer with anxiety frequently?
And it's more so now.
Yeah.
Like you hear of it people naturally just say, I feel anxious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a term that's probably to some degree overused, right? Because we don't know how to describe how we feel, you know? And so with the emotional literacy is limited. We've not been taught that when we have this feeling, this is what it means. But the truth is that a lot of people are in survival a lot of the time. And this is normally due to trauma that we've suffered with in younger age.
So let me give you an example. So a friend of mine who's dealt with some grief throughout her life, whether it was with her parents, her brothers and her husband over the last few years. And all of a sudden she's been told she's got high blood pressure. Yeah. Doesn't understand where it's come from, but it's very high. Yeah. And some people are saying to it's because you haven't dealt with your grief. Some people are saying it's, you know, she's really chilled. Like she literally does nothing. I don't mean like literally does nothing.
Yeah.
Her life is quite, the outside world would look at her and think, well, okay, yes, you've had some grief, but you're okay. Yeah. Why would you have high blood pressure? Yeah. She doesn't know why she's got high blood pressure. She was shocked when she was told it.
Grief. Grief quite a few times. The emotion gets locked in the body. Is not fully expressed, and the body tells you that there is something wrong, something that needs to be felt, and it switches you into survival, right? And also, when we experience a lot of grief, like how scary, it really brings death to the forefront. That life can feel very threatening when the people around you are all leaving, you know? And so if we just think of in terms of threat, and that switches you into survival, that alone can be a reason why her blood pressure will be high. These are things that we're all going to go through. We're all going to feel this loss at some stage, right? Yeah. It's not the actual event often. It's the ability to express the emotion around it. Right. You know, has she had the availability to grieve fully, like really fully?
See, the thing is, people always say, yes, I have.
Yeah, of course I do, yeah.
And whereas I think it's been 3 years now, and all of a sudden the blood pressure's high.
Yeah, Yeah, and it can be other factors as well, right?
Yeah.
Let's not bypass it. There may be some real medical reasons, and that should always be investigated.
Yeah.
When the doctors can't give you a reason why, and that's why a lot of people come to me with chronic illnesses, because they go to the doctors and the doctors show that their lab results are all fine, and they just feel gaslit because they know something's wrong and they're being told that it's not. And then I have people come to me who have been to their GP or they've been to a conventional healthcare practitioner and they've got no answers, and their health has now created some anxiety, or there's actually always been a low level of anxiety or fear, and they now are poorly. Because if we don't deal with the anxiety, then the body is going to keep telling us, right? Often we just suppress it, suppress, and then it comes out. If it doesn't come out straight, it's going to come out sideways, and that's with a chronic illness or an illness of some sort.
The amount of people you hear, like, they're like, oh yeah, my blood results are great, there's nothing wrong with me, and then literally something happens all of a sudden out of the blue, and you're just like, well, that don't make sense.
Switching in survival and being in survival for a prolonged period of time causes the release of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, as well as others. If you are always in survival because your body can no longer go back to a rested state, doesn't know when the threat is over, if you're always in survival, those stress hormones are released for a long time. Majority of people that I work with would have stress hormones released without them knowing. It's just such a state of living for them. And they're released for decades, sometimes a lifetime. It started from a really young age. When that happens, your hormones become imbalanced. And how many people do you know with perimenopausal symptoms? Really young. You've got hormonal imbalance, you've got chronic anxiety, you've got a low immune system, because as I said before, when your body is poised for survival, all of its energy is gone into trying to survive. So it's not going to prioritize fighting off this virus. It can't. The energy has to be used for this surviving. And then there's digestive problems, right? Because again, the energy can't be used to digest. I'm trying to survive here. Right?
Is that when you get like the menopause belly? And
yeah, menopause belly will happen because of the chronic stress hormones being released. Some people suffer from menopause because they just suffer from menopause, right? Like they have really heightened symptoms. But the majority of women that I have worked with who have issues with their hormones, once we've done some regulation of the nervous system, teaching it how to go back to a rested state and not stay in a survival state, teaching it one with somatic practices, gentle exercises, and tools, but also me holding a safe space for you. Come to me, give me what you need to get off your chest, out of your heart, out of your body, that you've been holding for so long, and let it just flow out. And then your nervous system can switch back to a rested state. When we've done this for long enough, and it takes time, somatic therapy isn't a quick fix. And that was
actually going to be my next question. Like, how long does it typically take a person? And I'm guessing everyone's different.
Everybody's different, right? It depends on the levels of trauma that they've suffered in their life, the engagement that they put into the work that they're doing. Because I'll have a session with you once a week, and that will be brilliant, but I need you to do the work out of the session as well, right? There's lifestyle changes. I'm not talking about diet and nutrition. I believe that comes naturally itself when we're in a rested state. But the practices that are offered to you, the mindfulness, being slowing down. Now, telling people to slow down, that's a tricky one. Right, that's really tricky, and our society and the way that we live is not conducive to slowing down. We are rewarded for working really, really, really hard to the point of burnout, and then how dare you have time off for burnout? Right, get back to work again. There's a lot of reward for staying in survival. The problem when we stay in survival for a prolonged period of time, we can only do that for so long before the body needs to shut down and go into rest. And so there's a third state, which is shut down, and we can often still function, but we feel depressed. The glimmers of joy and happiness have gone. Sometimes we can't function. We don't want to get out of bed. We're lethargic all the time. So chronic fatigue. A lot of clients that I have got ME, or they've got problems where their body is so fatigued they feel like it's degenerating. Autoimmune disorders. 80% of people who suffer with autoimmune disorders are women. And there's a train of thought that it's because we're nurturers and often self-sacrificing. We put ourselves at the back of the queue, and the internal environment becomes so hostile that it starts to attack itself.
Wow.
When we've shifted out of survival, we go to a shutdown state. It's really detrimental to our physical health, our emotional well-being, our mental well-being. Having guidance to shift us back takes time. So when you ask how long does it take, it depends on the degree of nervous system dysregulation, where we are.
Do you work with just women?
No, I work with men and women.
Okay.
Yeah, I work with both.
So just going back to your retreat, so when you take someone to Wales,
yeah,
how many people do you take?
So I have 2 types of retreats.
Okay.
One is a private retreat. So
Okay.
I would do one-to-one.
Right.
And that's for somebody who wants absolute privacy. Often their nervous system feels very unsafe with being with other people. So there's certain things that have probably happened in their life which has created that level of unsafety.
Right.
And that means that I'm dedicated to you for those days. And then there's another retreat, which is a group retreat, and there's 10 people, maximum 10 people. I don't go above that because I need it to be an intimate setting. We're doing some really deep work. It's not a yoga retreat, and it's not a exercise retreat, or it's not something which is about moving without delving into the body. All of this is about going inwards, not going outwards.
What typically happens? Because when someone says retreat to me, I think movement, exercise, breath work, yoga.
Exactly. And that's all there. Right?
Okay.
So let's go over a typical day. So we're going to wake up in the morning, we're going to go to breakfast, and I'm going to ask that no one speaks to one another until we've had our food.
Right.
Because often there's a lot of talking that we do in general in life to just fill the air. Right. And that means that we're distracted from ourselves. So that's why it's hard to be in silence. So we do that until breakfast. It's not a long time, right?
Yeah.
But you would be surprised of how difficult it is. And then we move into normally some kind of breath. It's not about deep breathing and heavy breath work.
Right.
It's about just connecting your breath with your body. Notice, where does your breath land? Like maybe we try it now for one moment.
Okay.
So we just take a breath in and exhale. And then you do it again. Notice where it lands, whether it's here, here, or in the belly. Okay, and no judgment, no expectation. Right. And release. Where did you feel it go?
It was here in my chest.
Okay, that's what I want us to do. Start noticing, right? Because our breath is so important.
Yeah.
Breath high and tight, that's difficult to go lower, is often associated with being in survival. It's important to know that that can shift from hour to hour, right? Before I walked in here, I was nervous and it was here. Right? And as we sit together, I'm like, I can go to the belly. When I leave, it may be somewhere else. So there's no judgment, but it's just us noticing where it lands. Because if you think about survival, about running or fighting, right?
Yeah.
And so why would it go deep?
Yeah.
You know, a deep breath in the belly is associated with relaxing the nervous system, being in a calm state, you know. So I'm essentially teaching you really simple things of where is it landing? Notice. And we'll do a somatic practice. So I will create a practice in one of the last retreats that I held. It was specifically for repressed anger, and that's a big one. And it was all female in this particular one, and that's something that we really know how to do well. We're taught that we need to be gentle, not be angry. It's ugly. You know? We've got to be the nurturers. How dare we voice ourselves, right? So I will create somatic practices and a workshop every day where we will have a full set of somatic practice. And then for the rest of the day, there'll be walking, connecting with nature, lots of food. That's always important. Resting, that's really important. And then rejoining again as the tribe that we are, or if we're in one-to-one, we rejoin again and we have guided practices. There's a loose outline. I work gently with it because the way that I work is like with a feminine flow. And there's some days where maybe the group of 10 are going to tell me they're exhausted because these somatic practices bring a lot of emotions forward that we often not aware of. So if you tell me you're exhausted, I'm not going to force you to do things. I'm going to redirect and figure out what's going to suit the group on that day.
And that's for 5 days?
That's for 5 days. Yeah, 4 nights, 5 days. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And then you really notice a lot when you don't have outside stimulation.
Mm.
You know, when you don't have your phone, you don't have your family to focus on, you don't have your loved ones, because although they can provide us with so much joy, they can also take a lot of our energy.
Yeah.
You know, it's really common. And that's why we will easily get triggered by people around us. Like even you mentioned when we go on holiday, how often do we have to worry about, oh, so and so might want to eat at this time, and what if they don't like this, and this person might not want to go here. There's a level of clipping your wings. And in the retreat that I hold, I ask that you bring yourself and just be. I have no expectation of what is to come forward, and we learn to flow with it. It's a compounded space where we can put all these practices in place, and you can leave knowing that this is actually available. Like, oh, this level of calm is available. Oh, these emotions are there, and that's the reason why I feel this way. And you go out back into the world, because you do. You go straight back to life, right?
Yeah.
You go back out into the world, and you function, but with a 1 degree pivot. Right? You see something that you've probably not seen before about yourself. You start to understand where your patterns and behaviors come from.
It's just even the environment. I went on a course for 5 days, and you couldn't really, they didn't stop you from going on your phone, but you couldn't go on your phone. This is when I became a firewalking instructor. And I was with 17 strangers. And at one point, my daughter had left a message saying, Mum, you haven't been on Instagram. Are you okay? Because they hadn't seen anything go on for 24 hours, and that's not like me. And I just didn't want to. But I remember leaving after the 5th day, and I was like, I'm sure the sky's more blue today. I'm sure the grass is more green today. And you just looked at everything really differently. And that probably lasted about 2 weeks. And before I knew it, it was like, you know, the sky wasn't as blue anymore. The grass wasn't as green, because it's so easy to fall back into it again.
Exactly. Right.
And it's really hard to stay there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why the one-to-one guidance is there and available. But also it's like, okay, so go to another retreat if it's available to you, if it's something that you can dedicate time to. And that's the reason why I'm adamant that I go at least 3 a year, at least, because I need to remove myself from the outer stimulus of the world. I have to remove myself from my clients. I have to have that space for myself to reconnect. And then I can come back and be of service to you. Right? Because otherwise, if I'm drained, like, what can I offer you? Very little. And I think that train of thought has to be passed on with everybody who's thinking about retreating, whether it's my retreat or somebody else's. If you are drained, how much can you offer to somebody else, let alone yourself?
Talking about clients, how do you keep boundaries?
Yeah.
Because I've got a friend who does something similar, and sometimes the boundaries get very blurred and your client needs you more, wants more. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so consistency, that's the first thing. So rules that I have in place and information that I've provided at the very beginning in that 30-minute consultation, that needs to be upheld. Confidence in myself that if there's a rupture which occurs from me placing a boundary, that I have the ability to repair it with you. Now, I'm not perfect. Neither are any of my clients. None of us are. I hope not, because it's not something we can really strive for. But I work in a trauma-informed way, which means I'm always bearing in mind, and I have this thought of how may this set off their trauma, and I verbalize it. Right? So, you know, if a client really needs me, they're really struggling, and they expect or hope that I'm available for them in the next 20 minutes, but I have somebody else booked in, I will communicate with them. I have somebody else with me. I know you need me, and I want to be here for you. However, I'm going to have to get you in tomorrow. Can that work? Can you use the tools that I've taught you to keep you going until then? Right? Which is very different from, I'm really busy and I haven't got time, and I'm going to have to see when I can get you in. The tone is different, right?
Yeah.
You know? And I had to really work on my boundary setting, right? Because being in healthcare, typically I'm a fixer. Being a therapist, there's a trait of being a fixer, right? And then there's people-pleasing traits, for sure. I've had that for a long, long time. And that means that I can end up self-sacrificing a lot. I can be that sacrificial lamb. And I needed to see it first. I had to work on that with my own therapist. And now, with the level of connection that I have with my body, when there's a boundary that's crossed, I say yes when I want to say no. My body will tell me one way or another, even if it's just my shoulders raised, right? But if my muscles aren't relaxed in the first place, if I'm here and it goes up a little bit more, I'm not going to notice, right? I've done the work to make sure my base level is here. So when my boundary is crossed, I can feel it and I can work with it straight away. Maybe I say to the client on a day where I allow the boundary to be breached, and I say, yeah, okay, I'll get you in 20 minutes. Let me see what I can do. And I'll move everything around. And I can feel the anxiety coming up. And I have to act on it really quite quickly and go back to them and say, oh, look, I'm really sorry. There was something that happened for me where I felt like I wanted to make you happy. And I realized that that's not going to work right now. However, I do want to help you. So I'll get you in tomorrow. I don't think that it's something which a lot of people focus on is repair after rupture. If there's something that upsets us or somebody that upsets us, we often aren't taught how to repair the relationship if we go to them and say, you know, you really upset me. What you said or did was really bad for me. The automatic assumption will be that that means our friendship or relationship is over. Whereas part of the work that I also do is teaching people that when there is rupture, we can learn to repair it. You know, that there is that avenue available depending on who you're working with and who you're having this conversation with.
Wow, so interesting. So there's a lot of talk about trauma these days. You've already mentioned that, you know, your shoulders or whatever. What if somebody listening right now and they're like on the fence, should I work with Jas, should I not? Is there something they can do a quick test check on themselves that would say, yeah, I probably do need to work on myself? Because the word trauma, my friend actually I'll give you a funny story. As I said to her, can't pick you up, can you get an Uber? She went, no, I can't. And I said, oh, why? And she went, trauma. That was it. That's all she said. She was joking with me. She was messing about with me. But because she used that word, I did not even question. I said, okay, fine, don't worry. I'll pick you up, but I'll be 20 minutes later. And then I said to her afterwards in the car, I said, are you all right? You know, have you been in an Uber or something before and something happened? She went, no. She went, just joking.
Yeah, it's a buzzword now,
Yeah,
right?
she goes, because I knew you wouldn't question me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I called her something. And that was it, you know, and it made me switch that, oh, okay, I have to look after her now.
Yeah, it's a word that's commonly used. There's two types of trauma, which I think it's important to define between the two. There's big T trauma, which is something like if we are living in a war-torn country, if we have been to war, whether we've been through sexual assault, you know, big traumas, car accidents, you know, something which really puts the body in a situation of life or death. If we have been in a big traumatic event and it's not moved through the body and it doesn't feel like we've been able to feel it through, or it's not been held for us, then that can lead to PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, it's not something that we always come across. However, there's the other type of trauma, which is the small T trauma. And that's where we would suffer with something which switches our nervous system into survival. There's a perception of threat. There may not necessarily be a real threat, but there's a perception of threat. And the nervous system switches into survival. And those kind of threats, those kind of small T traumas, for some of us can happen every single day. An example being, as children, as the human species, we are fully reliant on our parents, on our caregivers for life. As a baby, I can do nothing without my mum or my dad providing for me. So if they are not attuned to my needs, they may provide me with shelter. And think about me as a 6-month-old. Provide me with shelter, provide me with food. But mum's really poorly and she can't attune to my needs, which means when I cry, she doesn't always come to me. And when I'm crying, it's because I need her. She doesn't come to me, so my nervous system switches into survival. And then she finally comes and it switches down. Mum gets progressively more poorly, whether it be physical illness or mental illness, and the attunement reduces, or she's just going through something. The more times that happens, the more my nervous system stays in survival. It becomes a normal way of living. And my characteristics will change and my behavior will change in order to try to survive. So for a child that's left to cry and mum doesn't come to the child, and that's something that a lot of people are trained to do. Let the baby cry. Let the baby cry.
Isn't that quite normal these days? It's like, let the baby cry, like before we'd go and pick them up, like when I had kids.
Yeah, let the baby cry is normal, right? That's what's scary, right? Let the baby cry and the baby's nervous system switches into survival. It doesn't think anyone's coming. Eventually what happens is there's a adaptation where the baby stops crying. It knows no one's going to come for it. Now, let's fast forward to teenage and adult years when the nervous system switches into survival. If I've been left to cry and I've learnt no one's ever going to come, when something happens to me and I'm older and I feel a threat or I'm sad or I need somebody, I'll stay silent, right? I don't believe anyone's going to come and help me. I'm just going to be within myself. Maybe I'll isolate because I couldn't trust my mum or dad to come and help me, so how can I trust anyone else? And you can see for every time that happens, it can be a small t trauma. Right? Now, put that and add the many other things that happen in life, and it builds up and builds up and builds up. But I can't tell anybody because no one's ever going to come and help me.
They won't understand me, or it's my problem. And
so
for example, for men, I'm a man.
And
the ego and
absolutely. And so what we have to understand is there's a masculine and there's a feminine, right? And I'm not talking about genders, I'm talking about energetically, right? And for the masculine role, it's about protecting and providing. And the mind is not trained for men. The mind is not trained normally to verbalize what their needs are because they are the ones who are providing. Us as women, we're talkers, we're nurturers, we're lovers, we give, right? That's why we're sacrificial, right? And for men, when they are having these pressures applied to them, but they don't have an outlet, then it builds up and builds up and builds up. It's suppressing, right? It used to be that men would, hunt for their food and discharge their energy, because if we're talking about suppressing, we're suppressing energy. Emotion is energy, right? And if there's no discharge, it remains in there and it's all bubbling around. It'll start to make you feel like you're going crazy. And then you're not taught how to go inwards. You're taught to distract yourself with work. So work even harder, work even harder, work even harder. Find your purpose. But in the meantime, everything is still building up. Like, there's no discharge of energy. The fact that many of us struggle to walk for an hour a day, we've got to the point where we have to count our steps because it's abnormal for us to do 10,000 steps a day. It's an effort. Right? There's no discharge of energy. And that's why with somatic therapy, there are movements, because we have to move our body. We've got to, and I'm not talking about high intensity movements or strength training. Like, if you want to do that, great. But actually, it's just learning how to move your body according to what your body wants. If you are not connected with your body, how can you ever know what it wants? Right? And that works for both men and women.
So interesting. It's like they say, the Chinese say that every organ is linked to an emotion, like your liver's anger, for example. Find that so interesting, because when someone is then diagnosed with something and you see their characteristics and you think, oh yeah, they're an angry person and they've got a liver problem, or they're an whatever the kidney is or whatever, and you just think, God, there's so much to this.
I mean, UTIs, so common, right? And it's fear and anger, right? Like just this frustration, burning, right? It's just that burning sensation. If you think about it, it's heat, right? And so many women suffer chronically. We're given antibiotics, right? And then we're not even told to take probiotics afterwards. We're not even told to replenish the body of what we're stripping away. And there's not a question as to why has this happened. We're given a few reasons. Number one, you're dehydrated. I think we drink more water now than ever. How many people do you see carrying a bottle of water around?
It's quite fashionable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The
we never
latest
used to.
bottle.
Right?
How much water did you drink today?
Exactly. Like, people have these like 3-litre ones that they carry around, right? And I remember when I was younger, like, my parents never carried a bottle of water around with them. So we can see how things have changed with time. We're more hydrated and we have an abundance of things, most of us, more than ever before, but we are also suffering more than ever before. And I really saw that after COVID, because COVID for many people, the message that was given to us was that it's life or death. And so we switched into survival, and we stayed in survival for a long time. There was at least 2 years of this chronic messaging that we are going to die, or your loved ones are going to die. And imagine what that does for the nervous system. And after that, when apparently everything's normal, just forget that it ever happened. We have younger people suffering with viruses that they can't clear for 6 to 8 weeks or longer. And I know because I'm a prescriber. So they come to me wanting prescription for antibiotics, but their immune system is so shot because all this cortisol has been produced, all these stress hormones has taken their energy. They've been in survival for so long. And we've got the younger people suffering with more chronic illnesses, and even if not chronic, random illnesses. 1 month they've got a cold, the next month they've got another infection, they've got one in their foot, or their back starting to hurt. Like the body is giving signals all the way through, and we don't know what to do with it.
Or we're not listening.
That's it. Yeah.
I could talk to you for ages. I do have another question for you. So you created a membership specifically for South Asian women. Why was that so important to you?
Like I mentioned, I've been to many retreats, and what I found in most of the retreats is I'm the only South Asian woman. Often I'm the only woman of colour. And a lot of the retreats that I go to are somatic retreats, and there's sharing of what's happening for you. And I found that in a lot of the retreats I didn't want to say, because I felt that once I've shared this, these people here that are not from my community that I've grown up with are going to think all of us South Asian people have got this problem. We're all so messed up, right? And even though I was really safely held with the people that I have been with, and I've been really blessed to spend time with them and create these sisterhoods that I have, I realized the need for it. There's such a need. So many of us as South Asian women, we haven't been taught that we are number one. Right, we're at the back of that queue. I also found that there's such a taboo with having therapy, and so having a women's circle is a safer way of getting the tools we need to get us out of survival mode. Right, like when we come together and there's this cultural understanding that my upbringing may be similar to yours, and the expectations, the patterns and behaviors that we have developed, the levels of aggression, violence, also the levels of nurturing, smothering sometimes, right? It's quite normal for us. Like we can look at each other and like, oh, right,
I know what you mean.
I'm not going to judge you. It's like, okay, well, here's a membership that makes it affordable for people. It's no contract, no pressure. Drop in and out, because I also know that as the sacrificial lambs that we are, it's difficult to say I'm going to be there every alternate week, and I'm going to be able to commit to a year. When we're on our initial journey into our self-care, I think there needs to be flexibility and accessibility. And so I've created this membership so that we can join together, have somatic practices that I will teach, nervous system regulation practices that I will teach, and also a space to share with no judgment. It's very important in my spaces. There's no unsolicited advice, so there wouldn't be cross-sharing. For example, I'm a participant and I share something really deep about my upbringing. I would never accept or allow that somebody then jumps in and says, oh, I know how you feel, but you should have done this, right? Because it completely takes away from what the person has shared. So it's a safe space. I haven't had a space like that. And so I felt it was my duty to create one.
I love that. So we have a membership with you. We can do one-to-one with you. We can do retreats with you. Anything else?
I'm a humanitarian aid worker. I'm a co-founder of a charity called Humanitet. We are a very small charity, myself and my husband, with our trustees, our lovely trustees. And essentially we work purely on donations, and we're transparent. So if you donate £500, and at the moment we're helping with people in Gaza, and you say, I want that £500 to go towards this particular medical device that you have said that we need to buy, I'll send you a receipt. Right? It's important to know where your money's going. We're humble, we're flexible, we're fluid. with all of the things happening in the US and aid being cut, actually the big NGOs need us now. They need smaller charities. They need us to come in and fill gaps that they're not able to do. So yeah, I'm really proud of the work that we've done, and I'm really blessed to have these moments with my husband to be purely of service. So yeah, it's wonderful.
So if someone's listening right now and they're like, they want to help with your aid work, how would they do that?
Yeah, so go to humanitet.org and you can go on there and donate. There's also a page which allows you to send your information if you'd like to volunteer. We do some projects in the UK to help with asylum seekers and refugees. We do take people abroad with us when it's the right time. But we also ask that people fundraise for us. We don't have the benefits of local funding. It is all based on what our friends and family and supporters have donated. And we've been doing this for quite a few years now. So we're seasoned, we're well seasoned. We know what we're doing, and we want to continue to be of service, and we would like people to join us as well.
Love that. How can people contact you for the somatic work with you?
Yeah, so join me on wholebodytherapist.com, or you can find me on my Instagram handle at wholebodytherapist. I believe there'll be a link on your YouTube page as well. So and the link on the YouTube page that people will see provides a 30-minute free consultation if they deeply resonate with this work and they feel that they really want to let me know where their nervous system is at. We can talk and find a path for them which suits.
I love that. I think I'm going to be in touch with you myself. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Founder in the Chair. Please don't forget to subscribe, follow, like and share from wherever you are watching or listening.